Hello and welcome to Motor Week. Coming up on this week's show, Glenda McKay tests the Chrysler Leon. And it's an executive car showdown, where the BMW 5 Series meets head-on with the Vauxhall Omega Elite. But first it's off to Sardinia for a test drive of the all-new Volkswagen Polo. The all-new Volkswagen Polo, the fourth generation of one of the world's most popular small cars. Oh God, I knew this would happen one day. I can't think of anything to say about the car. It's a Volks, it's just a Polo. Think of something, say something. Oh dear. Oh God, these pants get right up my crack. Oh my God, I should have stuck with Strong and Silent. Okay, Hammond, come on, you can carry this off. Confidence is everything. Just look them straight in the eye, carry on as though nothing has happened. Come on, just do it. Right then, let's see how it drives, shall we? God, they do ride up though. Over 7 million Polos have been sold across the world since being launched in 1975. And the really impressive thing is how many of those early ones you still see rolling around today. They're pretty much indestructible. Interestingly, over 75% of Polos are bought by retail buyers as opposed to being company cars. Can't think what else to say. I mean, it's Polo, it's new, it's Volkswagen. Come on, think of something. You're a motoring journalist. Say something pithy and witty. It's a nice colour though, don't you think? Oh my God! You may have noticed that it's quite a lot bigger than the previous Polo. It's bigger in fact than the Mark I Golf, but then I suppose VW do now have the Lupo as their tiniest car, so they could afford to let the Polo grow a bit. Bloody hell, car sizes are getting like American clothes sizes. Some enormous woman getting into a dress. It's only a 12. It's a 20, they're fiddling the sizes. Blimey, pretty soon even a Super Mini is going to have 7 seats and a third axle. All models have ABS and EBD. EBD? Egg-beating dictaphones, I suppose. You'll also find ESP. Extrasensory pineapples, obviously. And twin front and side airbags are standard on all models too. Hey, twin airbags! You'll also find air conditioning as standard on all but the base models. Nice, let the peasants sweat, eh? Did you know that 60% of Polo drivers are female? I knew a girl with a Polo. She had the most amazing airbags. To the front and side, together with a stiffer body shell, mean it's one of the safest small cars around. It's a long time since VW produced a car that didn't drive and handle well, and the new Polo is no exception. It's very adjustable on the throttle. If you're really pressing on through the corners, a bit of lift off means you can get a bit of the back coming round. Apply the throttle again, it'll all straighten out nicely. There's definitely something of the VW Golf about it at the back, and then from the front it's decidedly Lupo-ish. I'm not sure, it could be a bit of a mishmash, but there's no doubt it looks solid, particularly for a small car. In fact, the new Polo offers levels of build quality you'd expect to find in cars several classes larger. It's spacious, comfortable, offers a stonking drive, and thanks to an intelligent choice of engines, gives you a good choice between economy and sensible performance. It won't be cheap, but it will be competitively priced, and as long as potential buyers aren't confused by just what size of car it actually is, it should do well.
When you think of America, you think of big country, big open spaces, big trees, big people.
Hold it.
And of course, big cars, because all Americans love driving massive station wagons, don't they? So I'm really looking forward to driving this. Hang on a minute. You're telling me that this is an American car? This small European looking thing. It can't be. I'm going to look at the badge. But it is. It's a Chrysler. Believe it or not, the same Chrysler that brought us the Grand Jeep Cherokee and the Grand Voyager. And this, the little Neon. Well, they say that beautiful things come in small packages, even if they are American. When the Neon was first launched in this country, it went down a storm, as it was offering a unique blend of high spec and low prices. But it wasn't long before other budget brands from the East came onto the market and stopped it flying high with even more competitive prices. So where did that leave the little Neon? Well, the Americans still love it, and they've got loads of websites dedicated to the car, plus a rather geeky Neon owners club. But, well, that's Yanks for you. But over here we needed a bit more persuasion, so they introduced the RT model to try to attract the racier drivers amongst us. I'm a little bit dubious myself, but it has got 150 brake horsepower under the bonnet, so maybe it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Let's find out. How do you start it? Ah, depress the clutch. That little American trick. The RT has a 2-litre 16-valve engine, which will do the 0 to 60 dash in 9.2 seconds and will give you a top speed of 132 miles an hour. So it's hardly the nippiest sports car around. That is certainly true. It feels really sluggish, and you've really got to work hard at driving this car to maximise the performance. So it's just as well that the gearbox is fairly smooth and easy to use. Now, when it comes to sportiness and road holding on the bends, the suspension feels hard enough to allow really good road holding, but it just doesn't deliver what you expect. So it goes to prove that just banging on a set of hard springs doesn't necessarily make a sports car. But then again, the Americans, they don't have twisty, bendy, fun country roads to drive along, do they? But what about in here? Well, the Americans don't have a particularly good reputation when it comes to build quality and finish when we're talking about interiors. And I don't think that this is going to change anything. It's really very plasticky in here. Sounds quite plasticky as well. But the seats are quite comfortable and they are leather. And they do give you quite a good driving position. But something else I've noticed about this car is there's a terrible amount of road noise. I wouldn't like to have to do thousands of freeway miles across America in this, because the noise would really become quite tiring after a while. So if I wanted to buy one of these today, it would cost me £13,995, which doesn't seem too bad for a sporty car with standard equipment which includes alloy wheels, air conditioning, leather interior and CD player. But then again, I could think of a lot of other cars I could also afford for £14,000. But it does sell in America. So I don't know, maybe this is because it isn't a massive station wagon. Maybe it's because it is a little European-looking American car that makes it popular. But as for selling over here in Europe is concerned, well, it's an alright car, but it's just completely outclassed by its rivals, such as the Vauxhall Astra and the Ford Focus. You know, I reckon that the Americans should stick to what they're good at. Being big. You know, give us your extra large Diet Cokes, your massive apple pies, your great big Land Cruisers and station wagons. You know, talking of massive apple pies, I could really just fancy a nice piece of apple pie. Do you reckon we could get any round here? Yeah, I guess we are in the middle of a forest. Well, you can but try.
That's all for part 1, but after the break we've got the executives arguing with the BMW 5 Series against the Vauxhall Omega Elite. So do you really need to be born with a silver spoon up your exhaust pipe to make it to the top? Or can you get there from more humble beginnings? Well, let's find out, shall we? This is a 535, but it is the 535 Sport. Basically, the only base version is the SE, on which you get pretty much everything. Electric seats, air conditioning, all that kind of stuff. Costs you about $35,140. To spec it up to this, the Sport, it's gained the M-type suspension and huge alloy wheels, a nice fancy steering wheel, a few body styling details, another £2.5 thank you very much, taking it to a total of £37,640. It is every inch the highly polished, highly educated, charming ex-graduate. Joined the firm straight to the top, no messing about. You will not find this larking around at the back of the canteen chucking buns. Oh no, this one will be sitting at the back talking to the boss. Let me put it this way, come Christmas party time, the BMW 535 is not the one you'll find in the store cupboard giggling at the secretary sitting on the photocopier. This is the one you'll find in the cupboard next door, going through the personnel files. The BMW really is the colleague that everybody at work says, oh, tip for the top. I mean, people call it the best car in the world all the time, the 5 Series. And they've got a point, it is supremely competent. It isn't bad at anything. It is a pretty much unbeatable combination of comfort and performance. With the M suspension on this one, it's slightly harsher, which isn't a bad thing actually for me, but if you want to be a little more comfortable and cosseted, save yourself a couple of grand. Have the SE. The interior, of course, is laid out supremely well. It's quiet, understated, everything just falls to hand, there's nothing leaping up and annoying you. It just works really, really well, and that's what BMW 5 Series is all about. Maybe the only downside of the BMW is that badge BMW. The image has become not tarnished, but a little too popular. I'm not saying common, not even almost, but there's a heck of a lot of them around. It's certainly not going to be distinctive and individual anymore. But that said, it still has a touch of class about it. Well, I was kind of looking forward to being able to say about the Omega compared to the BMW, it was all a bit rough, a bit kind of, all right, mate, pull up an orange box, make yourself comfortable, knock the cat off, ignore the fags, you'll be fine. But it's not. It's lovely in here. It's actually really quite refined. It helps that it's been lightly breathed upon by an ex-Audi employee, a company not known for their ropey interiors. The Omega, or Amiga, doesn't even pretend to be a sports car unlike the BMW, which, well, really, I suppose, is a sports car. This is about wafting along in comfort. But if you have got the taxman on your tail, 60 miles an hour will come up from a standstill in 8 seconds, which isn't bad. It's about a second slower than the Beamer. This is what it's really about, though. Slouching your way through the city, stuck at the lights again, bored. Looking around, what have I got? But loads of them. Don't forget, a lot of these business people, they get to the top, they're still stuck somewhere in the 80s. They want good old-fashioned buttons everywhere. We got loads of stuff on it. In a truly classless society, the path to the top would be open to all, to Vauxhall and BMW alike. But it is still true, sadly, that if you want to make it and you come from more humble beginnings, you're always going to have to work that little bit harder than those born with just the right name. Out of these two, for me, if I'm honest, price aside, it's got to be the BMW, hasn't it?
If I was in a pub arguing with you about the all-time great hot hatches, it's hardly likely that the name Alfa Romeo would come up. Granted, they've made some fantastic cars, but they're nowhere near the cult status of the likes of Golf GTIs and Ford RS models. But the people in the know are saying that the latest Alfa, the 147, is destined for great things in the hot hatch world, following in the footsteps of the current hot hatch king, the Citroën Saxo. Now that's a tall order, if ever there was one. Over the last few years, Alfa have managed to get rid of that build quality that was best suited to a Hong Kong Christmas cracker, and electrics that could have had their own wiring from hell series. Now they've got the quality and reliability of the best of Europe, yet they still remain an individual and passionate car. Now, being a hot-blooded Italian company, Alfa like to do things differently, and when it comes to interiors, this is a good thing. Style is the key word here. Looking more like a plain cockpit than a car interior, Alfa have really gone to town to make this car feel special. Compare this to a Golf or a Seat, and, well, there's no comparison. In general terms, where Alfa will score points over the competition is with their Latin design flair. There's no mistaking this 147 for a Golf, Beamer, or indeed anything else on the road, and it's that identity that any cult car needs, be it a Mark I Golf GTI, Citroën Saxo, or Alfa Romeo. Now, the problem with most of today's hot hatches is that they're much bigger and heavier than the steeds of old, and this Alfa is no exception. It feels like you're driving a much larger car than you actually are. That's not saying that the ride is bad, because it actually feels quite sporty. It's just not one of those cars that you'd want to chuck into corners, go-kart styling. If the ride is a little subtle for your taste, you'll love playing with the gears on this car, as it's fitted with cellar speed. That's paddle change to you and me. Just like Formula One, you can keep your foot in and paddle away to your heart's content. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Michael Schumacher! Though maybe not quite smooth enough for a racing car, the change is as smooth as any of the semi-automatic gearboxes we've tested, and it's a doddle to use. Press right to change up and left to change down, or you can use the floor-mounted gear stick if you're feeling sensible. The 2-litre engine in the cellar speed pulls really well once it's up and revving, and the all-important 0 to 60 time is a mild 9.3 seconds. But that's still quicker than a Saxo VTR and the Golf GTI 2-litre. Bellissimo! Handling and performance aside, one thing that Alfa get right every time over their rivals is the engine note. The 1.6 we've been driving around sounds brilliant, and when you rev this 2-litre hard, absolute perfection. No need for any big bore exhaust conversions here. Well, there's no doubt in my mind that from a sporting aspect, the 147 knocks a 2-litre Golf GTI for 6. But there's a big issue of price. At 17 grand, the Alfa is not cheap. And where the previous all-time great hot hatches have shone is with cheap, no-frills performance. So, maybe the Alfa 147 is a little bit too grown up and luxurious for the top 10 of pocket rockets, but as an individual passionate car, it's fantastic. And for all of you who think that Alfa have got the wrong image to be in the boy racer market, well, if Citroën can do it, I don't think Alfa will have much bother.
That's all for this week. Make sure you join us next week when we meet our new long-term test car that can't make its mind up if it's an off-roader, an estate or a hatch. See you then.